and exclusive. Shout out to Joe Rogan for this one. Joe Rogan, the experience with Donald Trump. You know, during this election time, this season, a lot of things have been revealed. A lot of things have been said. And, man, it's one of them things where what else is going to happen? You never know what's going to happen. But one thing I will say is that the truth has always been a place that individuals that have told lies, sorry everybody, I'm queuing things up, where people have told lies and their lies didn't hold no weight. We know what's going to happen in this election. We already know, we already there, and that's when it comes down to it. So just accept it. Put your glass in the air. Grab your shoulder pads and your helmet. Let's get this work. Having some technical difficulties.
People would talk. I mean, even if people had criticisms about you, people that didn't like you, there was always feuds and stuff like that. But the reality was, the thing turned on you when they found out that you were going to be president. It was very coordinated, and some people are catching on to that now. There's a lot of people that were longtime Democrats, like Elon and Bill Ackman, and all these different, very intelligent people.
And they support me now. Bill Ackman supports me. He's been very supportive too.
This is what I wanted to ask you. What was it like when you actually got in? Because nobody really can prepare you for that. When you're running for president, you don't really know what it's going to be like when you actually get into office. What did you think it was going to be like?
In office or when I decided to run?
So when you got in.
When I was in. So when I was in and won and was in the White House, essentially. Yes. Well, first of all, it was very surreal.
I would imagine.
It's very interesting. When I got shot, it wasn't surreal. That should have been surreal. When I was laying on the ground, I knew exactly what was going on. I knew exactly where I was hit. They were saying you were hit all over the place because there was so much.
I know it's a new thing for him, an amazing thing for him, being able to talk about those experiences, what it's like being in the White House, being elected. Not selected, elected. And we all have those experiences, whatever those experiences may be, when it comes to doing something new, something brand new. We all have those experiences. And I want to thank everyone for chiming in on this Shabbat Saturday. You could have been any place else, but I had to give you this. Had to give you this interview. Shout out to my boy K Spade for sending me this. He said, "Truck, you gotta do it." I'm like, all right. Well, I found out it was my boy Joe Rogan. Yeah, I had to. But this is a side of Trump that a large number of individuals didn't know, now beginning to see. This was an amazing interview, and I'm glad to be going live with it on this channel, The King's Table. Let's continue.
Blood from the ear. You would know that better than anyone. When they get the ear torn up,
ears bleed a lot.
They bleed. Anyway, so and I was thinking the other day, when that happened, I really knew where I was. I knew exactly what happened. I said I wasn't hit anywhere else. With the presidency, it was a very surreal experience. Okay,
Like,
And
what's day one like? You
so-
win,
yeah,
you get inaugurated. Holy shit, I'm the president.
Yeah, that's what happened. So I'm driving down Pennsylvania Avenue. I just built a building on Pennsylvania. You know, the hotel, the old post office it was. We called it Trump National Hotel. And we sold it to the Waldorf Astoria. And it was a wonderful thing. But I'm driving down, I'm passing the hotel. You've never seen so many motorcycles, police, military. You know, it was a major thing. I got off, really the first time I used Air Force One, landed, and we're coming down, and it was very beautiful. I mean, it was incredible. And we're going down Pennsylvania Avenue in the opposite direction. You know, normally you're used to going one way, and all of a sudden you're going the other way. The street was loaded up, and I wanted to go out, and I wanted to wave to everybody, but that wasn't smart. You know, the kid's a little bit dangerous, right? I mean, when you watch like Kennedy and some
Yeah.
others, right? But I really felt, I don't know, the love was so crazy. And so I did get out of the car for a brief, you know, just for a very short walk. I thought it was very important to do. And Melania got out with a beautiful dress on that became sort of a staple. It was, people loved it. And Barron, and we're walking down the street. But where it really got amazing, we get to the White House, and now it's a little bit before dark, beautiful. And we went up to the president's quarters. They call them the presidential quarters. And I'm standing in this beautiful hallway. You know, it's funny, nobody ever talks about the White House as being beautiful inside. You know, you think it's going to be, everything's going to be all metal doors and stuff. It's not. It's so beautiful. I made my money largely on luxury. The hallway is like 25 feet wide. The ceiling heights are, you know, it's so beautiful. But I was standing there, and I said to the guys,
I know that's an amazing thing, just to be there, have that experience. I know that's gotta be amazing. You just got voted in. There at the White House, you taking it all in. It's like moving into your first place, your dream home, and you just taking it all in. Like, man, what am I gonna do here? We all love that feeling. I remember, light bulb. Actually, 2 light bulbs. I remember walking into the Atlanta Falcons locker room. This was 2001. I got selected through the supplemental draft. Training camp. Going to the locker room. Going to the locker, seeing my name, my workout gear. I mean, it was a great feeling. Man. And then I experienced that same feeling again in 2005. Dallas Cowboys. I mean, training camp. Business is business. You know, you get cut. But just that feeling. That excited feeling. Even playing in the AFL. Because it took me back to Atlanta, where I played for the Georgia Force. So I can understand how Trump was feeling. Probably a little bit. He experienced a little bit more being the president, walking into that White House. What were your experiences? Leave me in the comment. What was your experience that made you just feel like a little kid? You was just excited. You was just happy. You was pumped. What feeling did you have? Share that in the comment section. Your boy Big Truck want to know. Let's continue.
I want to see the Lincoln bedroom. I had never seen the Lincoln bedroom. I'd heard about the Lincoln bedroom. And I was standing with my wife. I said, "Do you believe it? This is the Lincoln bedroom." I mean, it was like, it was amazing because it's, look, if you love the country, but here you're, the Lincoln bedroom, and the bed, he was very tall. He was 6'6", which then would be like Barron.
Right.
It would be like Barron Trump. He's 6'9", but 6'6". He was very tall. Then on top of that, he wore that. Yeah, there it is. It's a long bed, elongated bed. And because people were shorter than you see, some of the chairs are very, very low to the ground, actually. But he had the long bed, and they had you had the Gettysburg Address right on that, right under that. You can't see it here, but right there, the original version of the Gettysburg Address. And this is the original. And I'm looking, and I just looked around. I said, "Do you believe this?" Because I was never a first of all, even if you were a politician, but I was never a politician. I sort of just started, right?
Right.
And all of a sudden I'm standing in the White House. And it was very, very surreal. That room was so beautiful to me, much more beautiful than it actually is. To me, when I looked at the bed, and the bed you could see was a little bit longer, had to be a little bit longer. He lost his son, and the two of them suffered from melancholia. They didn't call it depression. They called it melancholia, and they suffered from it. He was a very depressed guy, and she was a very depressed woman, more so than him. And on top of that, they lost their son, whose name was Ted. And it was just seeing it in the little pictures, a little tiny picture. I mean, you can't see the details there. Little tiny, everything the way it was, a little tiny picture of Tad, who he lost. And it was devastating. And he was, he was in a war. He was having a hard time because he couldn't beat Robert E. Lee. Robert E. Lee won like 13 battles in a row, and he was getting like a phobia, like a fighter. A lot about the fight stuff. But like, I went to a UFC fight, and it was a champion who was 14-1 about a year ago. You would know the names.
We all like those experiences, man. Like I said, you can never get this anywhere else. So much is going on right now. And when you come across interviews like this, I mean, it's priceless. It's priceless. We have to take advantage of what we have right now, because we don't ever know when we're going to get it. So when the time comes to have these interviews, these good memories, you embrace that. This is a real special time right now. A lot of things are going on. Men, mount up, because it's coming. Oh yes, it's coming. Kamala supporters gonna look for someone to blame, and they looking to blame men. Get ready. Women, they did not support Kamala Harris. Others are looking to shame y'all too. Get ready, because it's coming. Prepare yourself. Rather than Kamala Harris take responsibility, rather put it on someone else. Black men not voting for Kamala Harris is not the reason why she didn't win. Kamala Harris is the reason why she didn't win. I've never heard nor seen a person destroy their own campaign. Cannot be making this shit up. Cannot.
14-1, and the only guy he lost to was this one guy, but the guy that he was fighting was like almost just an average fighter. Lost numerous times, but he beat this one guy. So I said, okay.
I really don't know who you're talking about.
I will figure it out.
Okay.
But about a year ago. But the point is that he lost. He wasn't nearly the fighter as the one. But the one who was not nearly the fighter had beaten. He's the only guy that beat the champ like 5 years before. And I said, I'll take the guy that won the other fight. And that's what happened. He beat him a second time.
Sometimes
Lincoln,
psychological advantages.
Yeah, what is this crazy thing? Lincoln had I don't know, I've never read this. I heard it from people in the White House who really understand what was going on with the whole life of the White House. But Lincoln had the yips about, in a way, as the golfers would say. He had a phobia about Robert E. Lee. He said, I can't beat Robert, because Robert E. Lee won many battles in a row. He was just beating the hell out of him. You know, they tried to get Robert E. Lee to be on the North, but he said, no, I have to be with my state. You know, the state was his whole thing, and he went to the South. And he was, I've had generals tell me, we have some great generals, the real generals, not the ones you see on television, the ones that beat ISIS with me. We defeated ISIS in record time. It was supposed to take years, and we did it in a matter of weeks. These are great generals. These are tough guys. These are not woke guys. But
one thing about Trump, and you have to understand his personality. If you understand his personality, you know, he's from the East Coast. So those that are from the East Coast don't have no filter when they speak half of the time. You know, it may come off arrogant or very, sarcastic, but when you get to know an individual, you know, and know how they move, you be all right. They'll be all right. Some cool people to be around. Shout out to my people on the East Coast. You know, much love and respect, you know. Met the man, Redman, our bodyguard there from time to time. So we've had many conversations. We know how this thing go. Let's go.
But their favorite general, in terms of genius, was Robert E. Lee.
In terms of strategy, you mean?
Strategically. He took a war that should have been over in a few days, and it was, you know, years of hell, a vicious war. And so here I am standing there, and again, I had never really done this before. You know, I ran a number of months before I won. I probably, I guess if you figured max it out, it would be a year, something like that. So I had never run for office. And I did well. I mean, I went into debates. We had 18 people, including me, and then slowly but surely they started to disappear. We had debates, good debates.
Everyone's aware of all this stuff. But what I want to get to is, like, what was the experience once you got inside?
It
like,
was just
what did you think it was going to be like in terms of, like, your ability to govern?
Yeah.
Like, this is your first experience governing anything. You've never been a governor. You've never been a mayor.
Private stuff.
Business.
Yeah.
But now all of a sudden you're inside the White House.
The biggest thing was just that first moment of being in this hallowed. It was really a hallowed place to me. It was
surreal.
It was beyond. To me, that was the experience. It was a surreal experience. And then, with time, that wears off. With time, it becomes, you know, your place where you stay. And
right.
I was doing a lot of. I had two things that I really.
I like how he gives us insight of what goes on in the White House. I like that he does that. You know, he gives us total insight. This is what it's like. You know, being at the White House. This is what it's like the first day of being the president of the United States. This is my duties. You know, I have to do all the basic stuff. You know, appoint individuals to their position. You know, filling positions and so forth. And there's a list of things that take place on your first, second, and third day. And once you get everything situated, it's like, man, okay, what's the game plan? What's the day-to-day game plan? You know? What are some of these policies that we're going to put in order? Put into effect? You see? It takes a lot of preparation. The playbook, learning your plays, getting in position, staying in position, and so forth and the third. And I like how he's given us that. giving us that insight, sharing with us what goes on the inside, what it's like, what's the day-to-day routine, game plan like.
Really focused on governing the country and survival. Because from the moment I won, before I got to office, all of a sudden, they came down. I mean, nobody has ever been treated that way. And you see that. I mean, you see where in the Washington Post very early on they said, well, now the impeachment stuff starts. And it did. I mean, it literally started from the beginning. So I had survival and run the nation. I had a combination. Most people don't have the survival. They get in.
What did you expect, though, in terms of, like, once you got inside, you had to appoint all these people?
Yeah.
Like, how many appointments did you have to make?
Well, you have
very short amount of time?
10,000 appointments. Now, they're different. You know, you have big ones, and then they appoint
Right.
100 people and 200 people. But the president really is involved with approximately 10,000 appointments. So you'll appoint a Secretary of State, and he or she
Right.
will appoint a lot of people. So it's a lot. But in terms of major ones, you probably have like 100, but they're big ones. Treasury, state, military.
And how did
government.
you know who to appoint?
Well, I didn't. I had no
You didn't.
experience. You have
Right.
to understand. Joe.
So
I
are
was
you
there
going-
17 times in Washington, and I never stayed over. According to the press, which I think is probably right, over the years, I was only there 17 times. I never stayed over. So now I'm sitting there, I'm saying, this place is gorgeous, but, you know, I don't know anybody. It's like you know, you go to certain areas, and other areas, they may be great. Washington was great. Washington's not so great right now. We got to fix it. We got to make it better. A very dangerous place, very badly maintained place. We're going to make it great. We're going to make it better. We're going to bring it back. But I wasn't a Washington guy. I was a New York guy. I was a New York builder, and I built buildings in New York, and I knew that whole world, but I didn't know the Washington world too well. And all of a sudden, you're supposed to be appointing top people. So
What did you think it was going to be like? Versus, like, did you have any ideas of what it was going to be like, and what was different?
well,
I like the questions that Joe Rogan asked because he asked specific questions, short, detailed, specific questions. And I like Trump's response to those questions. Other than someone we know, you ask Kamala Harris a question, you get word salad and you get the same damn answer. I was raised in the middle class. It was my mother and my sister. Times were rough. We did things did us. We saw things saw us. What the hell? Today is tomorrow, but tomorrow we're going to do for today. And the things that we live for today, we don't worry about tomorrow. For tomorrow will live on. But whatever we do tomorrow, we can sacrifice and do it today. What the fuck are you talking about? Let's eat.
I was always involved in politics, but usually from the standpoint of a donor. I
Right.
was a donor. You know, I was a big donor. I gave money to politicians. I enjoyed politics.
Mostly Democrats, right?
Both, really, pretty much both. I actually pictures of Ronald Reagan and me when I was very
But
young.
you were a Democrat until, like, what year?
I was a Democrat. I could get you the exact, but the early 90s, I switched over eventually. Actually, they had a reform party. I was thinking about doing that for a little while, but then fortunately I didn't because it's very hard. You know, it's a two-party system. And anytime you hear third party, I know you like RFK Jr., and so do I. He's a fantastic guy.
I do, but I thought
that
that
whole
being
thing
an
is very
independent
tough.
was nonsense.
It doesn't work. It doesn't work because even if you do great, you're not going to get Congress. In other words,
Right.
you need now to say, okay, now I'll get half of Congress that's never going to vote for you. So even if you got there, which is very hard, and I know how you feel about Bobby, and I feel the same way, and he's now with us. But it doesn't. It's pure and simple. It's a two-party system.
Right.
And somebody, I won't mention his name, but somebody spent $250 million trying to get the nomination as a Reform Party candidate or whatever, and they got just nowhere. You get eaten. You just get eaten. The system eats you alive.
Right.
So So it was really somebody that not only was new to Washington, but was new to politics. So in the office of the presidency, over the years, all those presidents, you've had 92% were politicians. Bullies than anybody probably around, because you deal in a certain sport where the bullies are exposed very quickly.
Yeah.
But he's bad. Bolton was an idiot, but he was great for me because I'd go in with a guy like a John Bolton to the Middle East. They should have never done it. I used to say it as a civilian. So I always got more publicity than other people, and it wasn't like I was trying. In fact, I don't know exactly why. Maybe you can tell me why.
Oh, I could definitely tell you. You said a lot of wild shit.
Maybe. Maybe
You
that's
said a lot of wild shit, and then CNN, in all their brilliance, by highlighting your wild shit, made you much more popular.
Yeah.
And they boosted you in the polls because people were tired of someone talking.
I believe also too, it's like the more that the news media chopped and screwed Trump's responses, or what he says and how he says it, to discredit his character, actually helped him out in the long haul. It's almost like that saying goes, there's no such thing as bad press. Because even the bad press can make you look good. I'm just saying. But peep this out though.
In this bullshit pre-prepared politician lingo, and even if they didn't agree with you, they at least knew whoever that guy is, that's him, that's really him. When you see certain people talk, certain people in the public eye, you don't know who they are. You have no idea who they are. It's very difficult to know. You see them in conversations, they have these pre-planned answers, they say everything, it's very rehearsed, you never get to the meat of it. One of the beautiful things about you is that you freeball. Like, you get out and you do these huge events, and you're just talking, and you're making. We've highlighted you on the show many times when you did this Biden impression where he's walking around, he doesn't know what he's doing. It's funny. It's stand up. It's funny stuff. But it's like and you were making fun of Elon one time. You were doing an Elon impression. It's great. You have like comedic instincts. Like when you said to Hillary, "You'd be in jail." Like, that's great timing.
Yeah.
But it's like that kind of stuff was unheard of as a politician. Like, no one had done that. And I think...
it's funny. You need at least the attitude of a comedian when you're doing this business.
Trump has a great...
This is a very dangerous business, first of all. It's a very tough business.
It's the most dangerous business.
It's the most, well, for a job?
Yes. I mean, other than going to war and being a firefighter or being a cop, it's the most dangerous business.
It's the most dangerous. For being president is the most dangerous.
Especially you. I mean, you haven't even got to the election. There's been 2 assassination attempts, and they've brushed those out of the news like it was nothing.
Yeah, they'd rather not talk about them.
Imagine if there was assassination attempts on Biden, how hard people would be attacking the right, how they would be trying to get guns taken away from people. They would try to ramp up gun laws. They would try to figure out some way to blame you. If there was attacks if Biden got shot in the ear, we would have never heard the end of it.
But I think he's in good shape because it's only consequential presidents. If you take a look at what's happened, look, I'm for having countries pay us billions and billions and trillions even dollars. I took in hundreds of billions of dollars from China. Nobody took in 10 cents, not one other president. I do things that make it, that don't necessarily make me so popular. I just do what's right. And when you do that, you're more, look at Iran. We would have never had the attack on Israel at all. Iran was broke. I told China, if you buy, you can't do business in the United States under any circumstance. We're going to go cold turkey with China. Some people think that would have been a good idea anyway. But if you buy any oil, 1 barrel of oil from them, you're not doing business. And I said that to many countries. Iran was broke. They had no money for Hezbollah. They had no money for Hamas.
When you look at it, Trump is a businessman. Trump ran this country like a business. And when he gets reelected and he takes the seat again, he's going to run this country like a business. That's why I'm letting it play. This is business 101. Trump business 101. He telling you. He giving you game. He giving you all kinds of gems. That's a good title. Trump Business 101. Gotta learn business. When you understand how Trump moves as a businessman, then you will understand why he does what he does. We've already figured out how Kamala Harris moves. And we're not impressed. We're not happy with that. It would have been better Hillary Clinton running. Because Hillary Clinton has more sense than Kamala Harris. A large number of y'all still voting for Kamala Harris, even though she has said what she said and have done what she has done. Y'all still vote for her. It goes to show how brainwashed y'all really are. It's a shame, y'all. It's a shame.
They had no, but I make myself, I understand what I'm doing. You make yourself a target, and it's a very dangerous business. But if you just look at statistically, so I saw a thing, I don't know if it's right, but 0.1% for a race car driver. Yeah, it's a pretty dangerous business, right?
Yeah.
1/10 of, well, okay.
Were we serious about that?
Yeah, sure, but why not? Because ready? Our country was the richest relatively in the 1880s and 1890s.
Mm-hmm.
A president who was assassinated named McKinley. He was the tariff king. He spoke beautifully of tariffs. His language was really beautiful. We will not allow the enemy to come in and take our jobs and take our factories and take our workers and take our families unless they pay a big price. And the big price is tariffs. And he'd speak like that, but he was right. And then around in the early 1900s, they switched over stupidly to, frankly, an income tax. And you know why? Because countries were putting a lot of pressure on America. We don't want to pay tariffs. Please don't. Believe me, they control our politicians. If you look at the kind of numbers that these guys make then and now, but we had a commission meeting in the I think it was 1887. Think of this problem. We were so rich. We had so much money. We didn't know what to do. So they set up a blue ribbon commission on tariffs. And the sole purpose is what to do with all the money we had. We were so rich because we were taxing other people for coming in and taking our jobs. And China does it. That's what China did. If you want to open a factory and sell cars, if you build a factory here or have a factory, they don't take our cars. They wouldn't take our cars. But if you build a plant in China, you can do that. Elon did that. By the way, Elon is great. That guy is such a great guy. I think you're a fan of
love
Elon.
Mm-hmm.
He is from a different planet. He's the greatest guy. That rocket.
Elon Musk is smart, brilliant individual. And for him to be backing Trump, that's amazing. That's a powerhouse right there. Vance, I like him. He's good on his toes. See, everybody's getting in position because they know what's about to take place coming November 5th. We all know what's about to take place. Man's about to get reelected. Man's about to take his seat. There's going to be a whole lot of Kamala Harris supporters butthurt in their feelings, looking for somebody to blame, looking for black men to blame. Oh, I'm ready for it. I'm going to give that same energy back. We're going to fast forward through some more of this and get down to the meat and bones of it. Let's go.
Coming in.
Yeah.
I'm more. Who would think that, right? Because you don't equate it to dollars, but it actually is more dollars. We had it going, and then we just had to focus on something else. But they were sitting there. These two pollsters were sitting there, and they said, "Sir, if George Washington came back, and Abraham Lincoln was his VP, as opposed to Waltz, how bad is he, by the way? But if Abraham Lincoln was his VP, they couldn't beat you. You have a..." And I'll never forget it. The following day, they said, "Something's happening in China, sir. Could we meet?" I said, "What's happening?" "People are dying." And it was all around the Wuhan lab, by the way. There are pictures with little lines, their body bags, all around the Wuhan lab. And I always said that from the beginning, Joe. It was, they tried to say, first they said it was France, and they blamed everybody.
Right.
But then they say it was bats from a cave 2,000 miles away. So we got hit with that, and despite that, we had the best economy. And when I gave it over, the stock market was higher than it was pre-COVID. I mean, nobody could even believe it. But we saved it, and we were helping businesses. They were dying. They were dying.
So it's your belief that if you had a second term, given the policies in place, the way the economy was booming, that you would have been able to pay off a lot of the debt. And that was the strategy. If we didn't have COVID, we would have been paying off debt, and we would have had, and don't forget, by growth, the word growth is actually more important in a way, because you could have the same debt, but if you doubled your growth, all of a sudden you're under-levered. But still, we should pay off debt. If you viewed this $35 trillion right now, it's a lot. But if you look at the asset value, if you looked at it purely as an asset value, we have oil underground, we have water, we have mountains, the assets are so enormous. But regardless of that, we've got $35 trillion in debt, we should pay it off. And we would have started paying off debt and probably even given further tax reductions. I want to get it down to 15%. We're going to do more business. But when you get hit with a COVID, everything stops, and you have to keep these businesses alive. The businesses were dying. They were just dying. This whole place, this country was going to die. Are there influences outside of environmental?
Before he finishes, he's telling you. He's giving you the whole rundown. So when I hear people blame Trump for those very things he just covered, I'm like, y'all full of shit. Man telling you himself. Because if Trump was full of shit, Joe Rogan would have called him on it. There was nothing to call this man on.
That keep people from wanting to drill for oil and frack and do those sort of things outside of the environmental concerns, which are legitimate, of course.
No,
but,
I understand.
But are there other? Okay.
Which I think you know everything, actually, as a student of yours. but water, in Los Angeles you can't get proper amounts of water,
right?
And it's unbelievably expensive. And you might have a house in Beverly Hills, and they're actually thinking about rationing water. Can you believe it?
I can believe it.
I was in the farm court country with some of the congressmen. We're driving up a highway, and I say, how come all this land is so barren? It's farmland, and it looked terrible. It was just brown and bad. I said, but there's always that little corner that's so green and beautiful. They said, we have no water. I said, do you have a drought? No, we don't have a drought. I said, why don't you have no water? Because the water isn't allowed to flow down. It's got a natural flow from Canada all the way up north. Water, more water than they could ever use. And in order to protect a tiny little fish, the water up north gets routed into the Pacific Ocean. Millions and millions of gallons of water gets poured. You got to see this. We're driving up, and I had never seen it before. It's like Iowa. It's the most fertile land. Iowa's blessed with great land. Idaho for a potato, right?
Yeah.
But they're just, by the way, some land is good for a potato, some land is good for corn. It's the craziest thing. I love the farmers. They're great. They're the greatest. And by the way, they're getting killed right now.
They are.
They're getting killed because of this stupid administration. But guys in Detroit are going to be out of business. You're going to make your electric cars over there. We have a thing called gasoline. And we have more oil and gas under our feet than any other nation. You know, I had, in Alaska, there's a find. It's called Anwar. I got it approved. Reagan couldn't get it. Nobody could get it. I got it all done. It was amazing. They were getting ready to start drilling. The equivalent, they think, of Saudi Arabia, one of the biggest finds in the world. It was all set to go. And Biden comes in, one of his first orders were, we're not going to use it. It would have been so good we could have supplied all of Asia with oil and gas.
What was the negative?
And you talk about money.
Right.
The negative was politically they didn't think it was good for them. That's all.
That's all it was. So you don't think that it's environmentally dangerous?
Taking it from way down deep in the earth, environmentally it would have been fine.
So it can be done responsibly.
Absolutely.
Oh,
otherwise,
the point where it
let's
protects
not
the
do it.
environment.
Well, I think of it. I was seven. This is the Washington Post ABC poll. I was down 17 points in Wisconsin, and I won. It's crooked stuff.
I believe all things can be done when you tap into them, you know. And the more you tap into them, you begin to understand and know. This is an amazing interview, man. I'm having fun with y'all. This is like sitting down in class listening to a business lecture. And he's giving you straight facts. This is what it was when I was in office. Joe Biden got to office. This is what happened. Trump didn't destroy the economy. Biden and Kamala Harris did. Pay attention to that, people. So when you're at the voting polls, think about this video.
There's a lot of crooked stuff, and I wanted to talk about that too, because one of the things that people talk about with you is the denial of the results. And I think J.D. Vance did a brilliant job the other day when he was being interviewed, and they asked him, did Trump lose the 2020 election? And he turned it around and said, was there legitimate election interference in suppressing the Hunter Biden laptop story on social media?
Hell yeah,
and
was.
Was that a concerted effort?
Well, they say it made
hide-
10-point difference, and I lost by one tenth of a point.
It is.
They say it was 22,000 votes, but look, it was much more than that. And I appreciate J.D. Vance saying that. And by the way, I think he was a great pick. Do you like J.D. as a
I
pick?
like him a lot. Yeah.
You're allowed to say that. As
No, I do. I like him a lot.
I think he's good.
I think he's a brilliant guy, and I think his ability to talk like a normal human being. You did my friend Theo Vaughn's podcast,
Right.
and he just did it.
How did he do with
He
it?
did great, and he just talks
Is that
like
why
a
you
normal
called me
human
to
being.
do this? Is that why you called me to do this?
No, we were
Holy
gonna,
cow.
I was.
He was a nice
once
guy.
they shot you, I was like, he's got to come in here. It's all about timing. It's all about the timing.
Timing's
I think
good.
our timing's perfect. Do you even have a scar on your ear? You got anything on there?
I do.
What do we say? What do you got there?
So, right over here.
Oh, it's a tiny little
See,
mark.
it zicked right there.
Yeah. It healed up pretty fucking good.
Well, it's pretty good. Yeah, it's little. It's not like some of the wrestlers, some of the UFC fighters.
No, you didn't
It's
get
a little bit-
cauliflower
No. It was sort of like a top shot.
Mm-hmm.
The point of the bullet was a
Boy.
little of the ass, but you see the thing's taken off a little bit. But it makes me a tougher guy. You know the fighters. The fighters love their. Bo Nickel, he's a great fighter.
Yeah, I love Bo Nickel.
How's he going to do? I think he's terrific.
He's great. He's a fantastic
He was
fighter.
almost like
Go ahead and
undefeated
fast
in
forward this.
same conversation. I said, "Don't do it." He would have never. By the time I finished, we had no problem with North Korea. We were really. It was a little tough at the beginning, and they made like a great deal. I mean,
it's worth a
because
lot
of
more
him.
than that now.
Take him
Yeah.
out, I think it's a whole different.
No,
ballgame,
he's
but
the best
and
fight
he's
promoter
also
of
the
all time.
greatest guy. He spoke at the whole thing with I had just been shot, and he got up and he spoke so better than anybody. I mean, who would be better to introduce you? I asked of all the people, and I know the biggest people in the world, and they all would have loved to have done it. I said, Dana, would you do it? It was interesting. He was away. And
Mighty Mouse. People forget about Mighty Mouse because unfortunately he's a smaller guy. He's 125 pounds, flyweight champion. He's one of the greatest expressions of mixed martial arts I've ever seen. I think to this day.
And
it's probably-
Khabib? What about
Khabib's
Khabib?
fantastic. But if you looked at like accomplishments in terms of championship fights, Khabib retired 29-0, but he didn't have as
And
many world
probably
championship
never lost a
fights.
round. They say
He might have lost to Gleison Tebow. He might have lost to him.
a
He
round.
might have lost a round. And
No, but look at that. Look where
at
the
the
USA is.
It's not good. And
they
that's our
spend all that
food.
money.
That's our diet. That's sedentary lifestyle. That's our diet. That's the chemicals we ingest. That's what that is.
But RFK is going to be very, I think he's a great guy.
I
think
love
he's
the
great.
fact that you guys teamed up.
Yeah, it's
And
a
are you
good
guys
combination.
completely committed to have him a part of your administration?
Oh, I am. But the only thing I want to be a little careful about with him is the environmental. Because, he doesn't like oil. I love oil and gas. I think
Just
it's
keep him out of
to
that.
fire. So I'm going to sort of keep him out of it. Unbelievable. I'm telling you, I felt I could have gone all day. But I said, Doc, I can do this all day. I didn't lose. But they say I lost, Joe, they say I lost by 22,000 votes. That's like 1/10 of 1%, less than that. It's a tiny little thing. 22,000 votes spread over, that's spread over this period. So 51 intelligence agents lied. They lied. They lied. They knew it was. It was hunters. It was for.
Oh yeah. They knew what time it was. Trump didn't play ball. You see, Trump is like, why do I need your money? I got my own money. Use that theory. See, you're getting the opportunity to sit and listen to a businessman talk. Through this whole interview should change your perception now of how he thinks, how he moves, how he responds. And this is what I'm saying, people. Like my boy OK Rick. This shit is too big to rig. It is. What more can be said? It's like a 2-part interview that he did with Joe Rogan. Kamala Harris has never been on an interview this long. Think about it, people. Think about it. And now, less than a couple of weeks. November 5th to be here before you know it. Trump will take his spot before you know it. Those policies are going to be approved and set in stone before you know it. Yeah, it's going to get violent. And it's going to be a Democrat that's going to set it off. I'm going to keep it a being with you. And that's another reason why I say, men, mount up. The women that support Trump in this, we back you. Please protect those. Please protect the women that vote for Trump. Because those that vote for Kamala Harris going to come hard. We're going to come harder. Until then, I'm leaving it at this. I'm gonna let it play a little bit more, and we're gonna wrap it up.
From his bed. It was Hunter's laptop. They said it was created by Russia. Russia. It was the Russia
Right.
hoax. The Russia hoax was a big hoax. It was all a big hoax. So
Well, that's
they
clear.
get Mueller.
That's one example, but that is a
but
good
that's a big
example.
example. They say it made a 17-point difference. That's a big example, but that's only one. And you could go into the ballots where they wouldn't give you access to the ballots. You could go into the ballot harvesting. You could go into $500 million for the lock boxes.
But just in terms of narrative, so there's two things, right? There's the Russia hoax. There's the collusion with Russia that was never proven, right? That's
Well,
one.
no, it's proven it didn't happen.
Right.
Yeah.
But they talked about it on
But it took
television.
2.5 years to prove.
But not only that, but it was a constant narrative on television. So
Sure.
that's
And-
a constant
and-
narrative that gets into people's minds, especially low information people that just watch the news,
Sure.
that you're in collusion with Russia. So that's one.
Sure.
So that changes the narrative. And then you have the 51 former intelligence agents that work with the original Twitter and get them to remove links. You can't share it on DMs. You cannot share that story. They swept that story because they said it was Russian disinformation, even though they knew it was not.
100%.
No, what they know, what it was they rigged that shit. They rigged that shit. They did that shit on purpose so that Trump wouldn't win. You think about it. Trump stands on business. He stands on what is right. The other side ain't trying to hear that. But the other side has their hands in so much foolishness. And through this whole election time, look at how the other side is showing you how they move. Democrats are showing you how they move. And y'all are still voting for them. Kamala Harris has showed you how she moved, but you still vote for her. She's a black woman. A woman in power. Fuck all of that. I need someone that's logic, that knows what the hell they're doing. She doesn't know what she's doing. She was a vice president for 3.5 years, and she didn't do shit. All she did was drink and wipe her ass. But Trump sat up there and showed you what he'd do for you. He told you. Project 2025, he had nothing to do with that. But guess who Project 2025 endorsed? Kamala Harris. The Democrats is, boy, they scattering like roaches right now. The Democrats is literally scattering like roaches right now. They pulling them out. They pulling out the big guns. They getting these celebrities. They getting these artists. They getting them. They getting them. They getting them. Here, we gonna pay you. Try to get the black men's votes. What makes you think that's why they moved in the migrants? We're going to get them to replace the black votes. We knew what time it was. Trump's racist. But yeah, you can't name one thing that he said that was racist. But I can tell you that Biden is racist. I can name one thing that gave the indication he's racist. If you don't vote for Biden, you ain't black. Y'all remember that? Y'all remember he said that? Nah, I tip my hat off to the black men and women that have been doing their research. That's been calling this thing out from day one. Shout out to Miss Candace Owens. But everybody's been doing their research. That's why this thing is full blown like it is.
So that's two examples
I'll let you know.
that are real examples. Now, anyone who considers himself a legitimate, objective observer of American politics, if you really want the best person to win, you would want people to not lie. And the only reason why they got away with this lie was because they continually labeled you as this horrible threat to democracy and Hitler.
Yeah.
They
But-
kept saying you're going to be a dictator, ignoring the fact that you weren't a dictator for the 4
Correct.
years where you were
The
actually the
opposite.
president.
I was actually
Just like the whole lie about COVID-19, C-19. That was a lie. But before then, boy, look what they was doing. They had a large number of people shook, brainwashed, until the truth came out. Where they at now? Now, allegedly, there's another variant. Ain't nobody falling for that shit no more. But we know who's the mastermind behind it. Democrats. Well, maybe we should talk about our reparations and go to Roland Martin and the Boule. Because something tells me they have a lot to do with that. If everybody else got paid, except us. Run till that.
Actually, the opposite of a dictator. I was a very straight guy. But look, those three things, you take those three things, each one of them by themselves causes the result to be different. Okay?
It does.
And then you can go into 100 other things. There's so many. We can't have corrupt elections, and we can't have open borders. You need to have a country. You need borders. You need fair elections. And I'll tell you the other thing you need is you need a free and fair press. One of the things I like about doing a show like this, can you imagine Kamala doing this show?
Hell
I
no.
could imagine her
She'd
doing
be
the show.
laying,
I
she'd
would
be
try
laying
to-
on the floor.
She was supposed to do it, and she might
She
still
wasn't
do it,
gonna
and
do
I
it.
hope she does.
She's not gonna
I
do
will
it.
talk to her like a human being. I will
If
try
she
to have a
did this
conversation
kind of an
with her.
interview with you, I hope she does, because it would be a mess. She'd be laying on the floor comatose. You'd be saying, call in the medics.
I think we'd have a fine conversation. I think I'd be able to talk to her. I wouldn't try to interview her. I'd just try to have a conversation with her and hopefully get to know her as a human being. That was my goal, having her on. Trying to get her to express herself just as I don't know if I don't think these formats are good. I don't think that two people, first of all, I hate the idea of the presidential debates because I hate the idea of a time limitation on complex ideas. Also, you have to break.
I think you have to have the debates, though.
Right, but the way they do the debates, I think, is the wrong way to do it. I think they should have a conversation. I think you and Kamala, you sit across a table with no one in the room but the two of you. Of course, you're not going to shout at each other. Of course, you're not going to insult
may.
each other.
I mean, it may get. They used to do it
Hopefully,
that
it
way.
wouldn't, but that would be.
I like that though. Joe Rogan makes a valid point on that. Just have a general conversation. It's almost like traditional men and women. Modern feminist women, modern simp men, all four need to have a round table conversation. Yeah. Fuck yeah. Have a conversation. Like, what do you mean? No, like, have a full-blown conversation. That way, everybody gets to air it out. But everybody gets to listen to both sides. You get to put yourself in each other's shoes. You get to listen. You get to ask. Open to accountability. Open to change. Logic. Feelings and emotions. Hell yeah. And when you have good conversations like that, like I said, Rome wasn't built overnight, but they did build Rome. Because using that same analogy towards dating, if folk was to do that, you have a lot more women getting picked, being chose.
Be the way
Yeah.
to do it.
They
And
used to
just
do it that way
To
in the old
put
days.
cameras on you with no one interfering with with checking whether or not it's factual, especially when it's biased, because they checked you all those times and they didn't check
Yeah.
her with clearly things that were inaccurate, right? So have two people just have a conversation with each other without a time constraint. And also this idea they cut off the microphone.
Well,
when,
and no crowd. How
no
about
crowd. Crazy too, because you're good at working a crowd.
I would rather have a crowd. But
Of course
I
you
would
would.
rather,
You're good at crowds.
But I had no. So they gave me an alternative. I don't think he wanted to debate.
Why did they want no crowd? What
Because
was the
I
argument?
think they thought I wasn't going to accept it. So I believe what they wanted to do is have me not accept. So they gave me a deal I couldn't refuse, and I said, I'll do it, okay? It's like the mob.
Right.
I'll take it. So they came to me, they said, we'll debate Joe Biden. You know, that thing got tremendous ratings, too. That was crazy. But we'll debate Joe Biden, but you can't have a crowd. They also wanted sitting down. I said, that's the only thing. I said, look, you gotta stand up. You can't really sit down.
Right.
You know, in the old days, they did sit down a little bit, but
He gets tired.
you got to stand up. And they agreed to it. It was a very tough thing. It almost killed it. They wanted to have like desks. We said. I said, I think we should stand up. And that was the only thing I asked for. I said, we got to stand up. I thought it looked bad for like the public, but they said no crowd and cut off the mic. And I said, I can live with it. I mean, I can live with it. And they thought I was going to reject it. And then they would say he didn't want to debate Sleepy Joe.
Right.
That's
Right.
what they thought was going
Well,
to
they
happen.
tried to say that with you and Kamala as well. They tried to say that you didn't want to debate her as well.
No,
But
by the
that's-
way, with her, number one, I'm leading. Number two, you know, I didn't, they also said it with the primary. So I had like 10, 12 guys, right, in the primary. No stupid guys. I mean, you know, they're governors and they're senators. They're not stupid people. Some are stupid, but not all of them. And all my guys said, you have to be in the debate. I said, why? I'm leading by 74 points. The closest guy to me, I'm like 60 points, 70 points higher. Why would I stand there like an idiot for 2 hours and let every one of them scream at me, I'm going to be the focus? What?
Right.
And I said, I'm not debating. And it was a very smart thing because, you know, it was, they just killed themselves.
The Republican primaries.
Yeah, the
Yes.
Republican primaries. I like debating. I think you have to debate. But I like
it has to be
debating.
fair.
I like debating like the Rosie O'Donnell debate. I like debating when you have a crowd. Remember the Rosie O'Donnell?
Yeah, it was very funny.
It was a
Megyn
crazy
Kelly.
thing, Megan. That was a hell of a question, man. If I didn't come up with that answer,
was a great
I was
line.
done. Well, what it was is, you know, we had 28,000 people. That was the Cleveland Arena where the Cavaliers played.
Right.
LeBron James. I'm not a big fan of LeBron James, but he is a good basketball player.
I just fucking love how he be sliding in shit. You know, he makes his statements, but he be sliding in things. To me, that just like his sense of humor makes him more organic, make him more authentic, because he speaks his mind, but he comes from an honest, sincere place. If you didn't know, then you would take it the wrong way. And you will know why you take it the wrong way. Because you're not willing to understand someone like him. You see? But, hey, we know what time it is, right? It's time to prepare for your votes. Vote for whoever you want to vote for. Don't let nobody punk you or shish you. Stop letting Democrats shish you and punk you or shame you because your political views are different. You have the right to your own political view. You have the right to vote for who you think will do good in this country, run this country, be a better candidate of running this country. And if a person shames you because your viewpoints are different from theirs, fuck them. That's what I say. That's your choice. And you have the right to exercise your choice. I'm going to let it play out because I love listening to him. He's making a point.
But you know, that was and when I said that, the place went crazy. And she
'Cause it's
kept
funny.
talking. No, she had like 10 other.
Yeah, well, Megan
names.
said you said it to other people, and you admitted you did, but it was funny. It was a comedic timing moment.
It was fine. It
That's
was,
what they wanted to
It was
avoid.
lucky I did it because she was drowned. Oh, she wasn't finished. That question, but she
Right.
kept talking,
Right,
but you
right,
couldn't hear.
right.
To this day, they don't know what she said, but it wasn't buzzing. So anyway, but we had a good time.
Well, it's
I
comedic
think
timing,
it's
and that's the
important.
reason why to have a debate in front of a large audience. And then they
Well, how
probably
did
thought
I
you
do
would
with the
stack
Al
the
Smith
deck.
dinner? I got very
That was
good
great.
reviews on that.
That was great. It was very funny.
I got
Some
good
very funny
reviews.
stuff. The Tim Wall stuff was very funny.
But we're going to break for now. I'm just thankful that I had the opportunity of letting this thing roll the way that I let it roll. And give y'all the opportunity to see Trump in a peaceful environment, in a place where the truth can be exposed. What better place than at the Joe Rogan Experience? You being around Joe Rogan is an experience because he's an amazing person. And anybody that follows Joe Rogan, let him know I would love to do his show. Amazing brother. And those that follow Trump, know his son. Hey, Trump, I'm sending you an invitation. Come to the King's table. I got an invitation for you. Come to the King's table. Let's talk about it. Until then, go be the best version of yourself for many people to see. Take that with you and go be great. Please don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. Hit that bell so every time I upload, you'll be the first to get it. You'll be the first to see it. I upload like, five to 8 videos a week. I'm grinding, getting this word out. Learning live stream. We're getting it. I appreciate you all and I love you. I'm so thankful and grateful. Go be the best version of yourself. Peace, one love.